All right, I promise I'm gonna get back to some like comic book material. I promise. I have a few videos that I do want to roll out though, talking about some of the protests and the things that are going on because people are starting to be injured at these again, and I think it's worth talking about. So this particular case comes out of Austin, so not too far from me, and I think the guys are actually that are involved in this, or the one of the individuals that the main individual that we'll be discussing is from out here, North Texas. So let's get into it. Let's discuss it. So, Austin police investigating shooting death of protester. And says Garrett Foster. This is coming from Dallas Morning News. Garrett Foster and his fiance, Whitney Mitchell. This is Whitney. This is Garrett. Now, Whitney is a quadruple amputee who uses a wheelchair. And she was at the protest. They were both at the protest. And this is what the article is saying. I've actually attempted to look into this a little more, and I don't know. I mean, you're getting kind of conflicting things depending on who you ask. But let's read it. It says police have released the driver who allegedly killed an armed protester Saturday night in downtown Austin while they investigate what led to the fatal shooting. Austin Police Chief Brian Manley identified the man who was shot as Garrett Foster. Foster was attending the protests against police violence and had been pushing the wheelchair of his fiancee, Whitney Mitchell, 28. So these guys are around my age as well. Who is a quadruple amputee. Their mothers told the Dallas Morning News the couple who met in North Texas as teenagers. So yeah, they're from out here. Moved to Austin a couple of years ago and had attended protests in the recent week. So this isn't their first protest or anything. Austin police are investigating what occurred between Foster, who they said was carrying an AK-47 style rifle during the protest, and the driver who called the police to report he shot someone. So Garrett was carrying around a rifle. He was open carrying. This is Texas. It's not definitely during protests. It's not that unusual to see people carrying guns. Certainly once you are in the South, you're going to see that a lot more often, definitely during protests. Up north, now Northwest, maybe not as much. The Seattles, the Portlands of the world, probably not going to be seeing all of that, but we are in Texas after all, and Austin is full of leftists, but a lot of those guys are strapped too, because it is Austin, it is Texas. There you go. So the driver was actually the one that contacted police saying, I shot someone. And Foster was killed by him. This is what happened that we're going to go into it. Accounts of what happened that night, Very police said. Witnesses reported that just before 10 p.m. Saturday, a car turned down the street toward the protesters, and the driver started honking its horn. The vehicle stopped in the roadway, and Foster approached the vehicle side. Foster approached the driver's side window as others began striking the car. Okay. The driver then opened fire, striking Foster. Manley said at a news conference Sunday that the driver reported Foster pointed his weapon at them before shooting. So he's saying that, and it's something that I actually got to get to right after this. So he is saying that the person that shot Garrett is saying that Garrett pointed the AK or whatever rifle, it might have been an AR, I'm not sure, pointed the rifle at him, and then he fired. And it says KVU TV reported that police have said Foster did not discharge his weapon, so he never shot. But the other man saying he pointed at him. But the chiefs did say someone else in the crowd did return fire as the car left the scene. Interesting. So it looks like there was a third gunman. Not a gunman, but a third person that had a gun. Is what they're picking up, is that someone else ended up shooting at him as he was driving off after, I guess, he had shot Garrett. The driver and the other person who were shot were released from police custody. It says policy custody, but police custody, I'm just trying to say, after they gave their accounts of what happened. Both of them had LTCs in order to carry a gun. Manley said Supposed to them obviously familiar, and obviously they had a license to carry as well in Texas. Unfortunately, you do have to have those if you are going to be carrying those around. I don't think you have to have one in the car though. I don't think you have to have one in the car to be in the car and to use it in the car, because they consider that just like your, if I'm not mistaken, like your house. The only issue is that obviously you couldn't go like in a store or something like that to carry it, and what have you. Police did not say whether Foster has such a license, but it is illegal. It is legal in Texas to carry a rifle like an AK-47 without a license. This is very true. To carry a handgun openly or concealed, one must have a license unless a person is transporting their handgun while driving the vehicle. Like, that's kind of what I said. Like, yeah, so in the car, you're fine for the most part. It's illegal to brandish any deadly weapon, including a gun, in a manner calculated to alarm. So I guess this is a stick up. Austin police are viewing witness videos, and I've seen a couple of those. Well, one of them actually, to determine the precise actions of those involved. They're asking for help from people who may have additional evidence to turn it over. So it looks like this is going to be one of those that, all right. So yeah, I guess this article is talking, because I know some news folks talked to the parents that were involved, and they're saying that yes, they had been wanting to do their thing. He said he was pushing her wheelchair across the intersection when this happened. And they're of course going to say this, and you should expect this. I mean, you can imagine losing your son or something like that. It's never going to be the son's fault. I don't think that's a completely unusual thing for a reaction for someone to have. And they're saying that there's no way that man would point his gun at someone else like that. So this is my thing from what I picked up. And this is a very unfortunate situation. I don't like people getting shot and killed, man. I mean, I'm a gun rights guy. Obviously, I'm a gun owner myself. I walk around with that thing on me as well. But the thing is, it says he jumped in front of Whitney and the guy rolled down the window and shot him. Okay, so this is my thing. That the person was aiming at her because she was a sitting duck. That would be crazy if she was like, oh, you're a sitting duck, so I'm gonna shoot the girl in the wheelchair. So this is my thing, and you guys can give me y'all's thoughts as well. Obviously, it is a tragedy anytime someone gets shot. Okay, protesting or not, it doesn't matter. It's an unfortunate situation. The thing, though, in this situation, and what I'm trying to tell you guys to stop with that, man. I just did a video on that, surrounding these people's cars and beating on them because they are going the way that you don't want them to go, in the event that you are in the middle of a protest. Now, other people would say, why are they driving there? I don't know. The article doesn't clarify if they were closed down. They had closed down the street that this person was on. It doesn't look like that was ever the case. And obviously the police even, they may be incompetent, who knows? But they've released the guy that returned the fire as well as the guy that shot Garrett. So, I mean, they would not release you from custody if they didn't have something on you in the event that someone got killed. Like, there's no way that they would do that. There's no way. So stop surrounding people's cars. Stop doing that. Like, I'm serious, guys. Like, they think I don't want to say they think it's funny, but I did just do a video and you get protesters that think, okay, I am going to block this off to voice my frustration. I don't want you coming over here. I don't want you driving over here. And I understand that there may be a nuance here or there about that in that regards, because sometimes the roads are actually closed down for these protests. But this idea that you guys can beat on someone's car. Now, let's assume this, and I don't know, but let's assume this, and just for the sake of the conversation. If the road was not legitimately like closed down and this person was driving to wherever destination that they were going, and then y'all don't like the fact that they go in there and y'all just surround his car, and a man walks up with a rifle, I can imagine being in that situation, and everybody's going to be definitely, I know a lot of gun owners are going to be be weighing in on this. People get jacked up out in these, getting dragged out of their cars and stuff like that. These are things that happens. And you can say that would have been the intention or wouldn't have been the intention of the protesters who were beating on his car or doing that, blocking him off. But that's the thing. That's the thing, though. And this is why I don't think you should ever stop, because you're going to be dead in the water in the event that happens. Now, if you have a gun, you give yourself a fighting chance, right? But that's my thing. Is that if you are in that situation, you can armchair this all day long, but I'm just being realistic about this, and this may be one of those that's just a surely unfortunate situation. It doesn't mean that I don't know if he pointed it at him, but I will say absolutely if someone is pointing at me, pointing a gun at me, if that was actually the case while I'm in the car, yes, it's going to be. I'm blasting. It's just what it is. Straight up. I am blasting. Again, this is a person that is in the car, driving, got the car blocked off. They see someone else point a rifle actually at them. Come on, man. Like, you got to know if that was the case. Now, if that was the case, which I don't know, because again, conflicting reports. Even if Garrett he didn't have bad intentions. Like, say he was actually trying to protect his girlfriend and he steps in front. Like, all these can be true. All these can be a very unfortunate situation in combination where really nobody's at fault. The guy made a completely rational response on both parties. Garrett maybe is trying to protect his lady. The man that shot him is trying to protect himself. And it happened. And these are absolutely, this is why the importance of gun safety and knowing how to use it, when to show it. These are all important things, right? I don't think it's a thing that you should be doing to just be running up on people's cars with a gun. You can understand what type of conflict that can cause, but it's one of those things you might not even be thinking, this is my lady, I'm trying to protect her. I don't know what actually happened. All I can say is that y'all got to stop surrounding these folks' cars, man. And if I'm in the car, I will say that I will give more leeway to the man that is in the car, woman is in the car that ends up shooting someone, because you put them dead in the water and you surround them and you got protesters, fight or flight, you thinking. And that's a reasonable response. It doesn't matter how you feel about him or the guy that got shot. Doesn't even matter. That's a reasonable response. That's a reasonable response. I know a lot of folks don't own guns. They don't think about this because they're not in those positions. So a lot of people go armchair. Oh, he should have did this. He should have thought about that. Dog, you talking about someone driving, and let's assume this was true, and they get their car surrounded. Some people are beating like, hey, why are you going this way? Dude, the thing's already out, ready to rock. So I don't know. And some people are talking about it because they said this Gary guy was some like a libertarian activist. But I don't like this direction of that a lot of people, when it comes to protesting, not even people that are just protesting, more people that are trying to support the protesters, think that always the protester, when it comes to vehicles, is in the right. And that's just nonsense, man. That's just complete nonsense. No, they're not. They're not always in the right. There's other things that we would need to know. But, I mean, I could even think, even if a guy's showing his weapon, walking up to my car, there's other people beating on it, even if he didn't point it at me, I would still be, like, drawing, like, for sure. It's a completely reasonable, because I don't know if you're going to pop me. I have no way of knowing that you're going to pop me or not. This is why I don't think it's generally a good idea to just be walking up on people's cars, which you get. I don't think that's a good idea. If more so if you're open carrying, right? Definitely a rifle you have. I don't know how he was holding it. I don't know if he pointed it. I have no idea. But it's one of those things that it's so unfortunate. And people, these are things that it's going to be happening a lot more often. Definitely in the South. I just did a video about this. This was before it happened. This is before I even heard about this story. I just did a video about some folks out in D.C. surrounding them, and I just said that this was a possibility. So stop doing that. Like, because I said, like spots like that in the South, that may be a very well possibility. And then I hear about this story, and I'm like, golly, unfortunate man loses his life at a protest, and it sucks. I absolutely suck. Feel for his family. You know, it's one of those things that's trash, but he could have been the least at fault in the situation. To be honest, who knows? I know this is a cause that he supports, supposedly, but either way, I'm saying like the guy that got shot could have been the least guilty in it, depending on what happened. He could have possibly been like, it's a combination of a lot of different things. You got people beating on your cars or people blocking you off, impeding on your movement in the vehicle, so you're at a standstill or something like that, and you can't go. If that's what happened, and yeah, it wouldn't take much from him. It's just the guy's in fight or flight mode, but it's reasonable for him to be in that position. We know what has happened to people getting dragged up out of their cars and getting beat up. And then in some cases, I mean, you remember back in, LA riots and all that's taking place, man got killed. It got him killed. So I get it. I certainly understand and feel for it, but I just wanted to highlight this situation. And at minimum, no matter where you're at, I could understand if someone's like running off the curb into a crowd or something. I get that. But y'all got to stop surrounding these cars, man. Definitely in the South, man. Stop that. That is not a good idea to be surrounding these cars because it's an unfortunate thing, or something unfortunate could happen surrounding these cars because they're going a certain way that you don't want them to go. And you think because you're a protester, you have the right of way, and you don't. Okay. So I will keep you guys updated if there's something groundbreaking that happens and we have to revise it. Like, oh, this was blocked off. This man wouldn't charge that or crap. I haven't seen any evidence that points to that. But if it does, we'll talk about it once it happens.